Hello, boys and girls. How you doing today? Been a while. Um, so much going on. There's so much in the world right now that's so. Uh, you got so much information coming at you right now. It's hard to sort through, I'm sure, as it's even sometimes difficult for me to see through some of these lies. Uh, so, you know that I've talked about the Grand Canyon and stuff and all the sciences that are wrong. But don't know that I've gotten that point across on how they've done it. In the past, we only had like Scientific Magazine, and then there was National Geographic, and a few others that weren't that famous, and and then obviously scientific journals written. Um, but in order to get published, you had to go to the same group of publishers and the same uh, financial backers. So, in order to get into what we now call mainstream science, you had to tote that narrative for them. And if you were off the narrative, if your science was, well, true or real, um, you'd be blacklisted, and they'd use it to ridicule you and make you look crazy or stupid in the field. Now, um, so so they had like this monopoly over the information that we got. And not only did they have that, but if you were like say you're a geologist or an archaeologist and you wanted to go dig a hole somewhere, well, you need money to do that. Big time money, because they don't just go in with an excavator and dig a hole, which is expensive as alone. But they got to have like people there. They dig real gentle, dust things off, and quarantine and cut everything into little sections and string it all, and it's a lot of work. And so to get the money for that, the way the contracts worked was that, yes, I'll fund you. Say I'm a whatever funder. I'm not going to say any names because I'll get. Oh, I'm going to put this on Rumble mostly, I think. But anyway, so I'm funding these, and you come to me and you say, "Oh, I want to dig here because I think of this," and then I say, "Okay, well, here's the contract," and the contract would say, anything you find, you got to bring to me, and then I'll tell you what can be released to the public, because you might I got to protect them from themselves and blah blah blah, whatever. It's for their benefit. So the archaeologist, you're talking to not just a guy. You're talking to like a big scientific community or a board or whatever, it might just be a guy, but it's a guy who does this quite often, and he's known in the community. Anyhow, so you get your funding, and then say you find whatever, you can bring that to him, and then he tells you what you're allowed to do papers on and what you can release, and what goes into the basement of the Smithsonian and gets locked away, right? Because like most of our history is in the Vatican and the Smithsonian, and nobody's allowed to see it. Look it up. It's They say, oh, people are allowed to see it, blah blah blah, or whatever. You just got to be qualified. look up the qualifications. They're absolutely ridiculous. And then it takes you years to get qualified. And then your qualification expires in a year. And even once you're qualified, you're not allowed to just go in and start looking around. You're allowed to request 3 things a day. And if you're not really specific on the request and they can't find one of the things or all 3, you got to wait till the next day and put in a new request, right? You're only allowed 3. So it's absolutely ridiculous. And it totally hinders historians, scientists, archaeologists, everybody right across. And in order to even get into that position, it's set up in such a way that you got to be a pretty biased scientist. Though you could get through as a Republican kind of guy, but or a free thinker or an open-minded person, but man, it would be some hard. And I'm sure they would screw up your orders quite regularly based on nothing. Anyhow, so this narrative could easily be controlled right up until the age of the information age, the internet, and so people my age in their 40s, we can actually remember that changeover, and we were young enough that we kind of took to both. We're still a lot of Generation X or whatever is really woodsy and to nature and the earth and all that, and did stuff when we were kids, but also had the Nintendo games and all that kind of stuff, and can do technology a bit. Anyhow, the control that they had was enormous. So there's so much, and now you guys are just scratching the surface where you're talking. You're seeing like the medical field, and it's just scratching the surface of it, or you'll even see it in like geology or wherever, but you think it's just that incident, and all that other stuff is real, and no one's looking into the rest of the lies. Now I am seeing Kent Hovind, Dr. Dino, starting to get the little TikTok videos, and he's starting to come up. But that information's so old that we should be so far past it that it's like unbelievable. He's left in the dust. It's still really good information, and there's a lot of science there and stuff like that, but he's still seeing things incorrectly in a lot of different things biblically and scientifically. And he's dedicated his career to this, and so you kind of understand the pride thing. Cut him a little slack. He's old too, right? So anyhow, all this stuff is like everything that you were taught in school. Probably 3/4 of it's just shit. Like full out lies. All the evolution stuff, all the missing link stuff, all the age of the earth stuff, just so much. And then you can get into space, but without even touching space, staying within their heliocentric model, none of their shit works. All the evolution, age of the earth, billions of years, no, you still have to have a recent creator that just made this place. And there's so many holes in it. But the Big Bang thing and all that stuff and everything that think we know is so far-fetched. Like it's just none of the science adds up. There's science within an explosion, but everything from the explosion will be, every piece of debris will be even and equally distanced from each other, getting further from the source and further from each other as they go out until they hit resistance. And there's no resistance in space. And all of the objects will be spinning in the same direction. And usually clockwise, I think. But we have whole galaxies spinning in the opposite direction. We get little clusters of planets and stars and vast open regions of space. Like, none of their shit adds up, you know? And then evolution, you'd have to have the evolution of like the periodic table from an explosion. So from hydrogen and nitrogen, you'd have to evolve to all the other chemicals and all the other elements on the table. So it's just impossible. And then they say, well, fast fusion can happen in the stars, and that would have made all the other elements. And iron can't be fast fused. So it's just, there's too many things that just don't add up, right? And then the age and thing, like, there's limiting factors. The moon's getting further away. So if you go back in time, the moon's getting closer. The sun's getting smaller. So if you go back in time, the sun's getting bigger. These are huge problems in a billion years. In billions of years, these are massive problems. In 6,000 years, it's nothing. Right? God set it all, put it into motion, and it's had 6,000 years to degrade. And everything, like, that's the other thing. There's a law that all things tend towards chaos. That's a law of thermodynamics. And so your DNA isn't getting better with time and age and all this stuff. We get weaker. And we can see it in disease and ailments and chronic problems and back pains and bone dysplasia and autisms and all these other things. Now, a lot of that can be attributed to the foods we eat and the medicines we use and all that stuff. But I mean, none of it is real. None of the things that you think are real, right? So, and like Dave says, if you concede to living in Satan's design of the universe, then you have to live by the rules that that design lays out. If you concede that it's God's universe, then you have to play by the rules that that universe plays out, right? And that's where the divide is, because there's people and there's scientists who have actually written this down. I'm sure I'll screw the quote up, but he said that we know that none of our science holds water, and that, I forget how he said, a sickly paw hangs over the evolutionary theory. But the only alternative is that there's a God, and so we don't want that. So until we can find a different, and he said this better than I am, until we can find a different theory, we're going to stick with this one, because we don't want to concede to God's rules. Our own lust is what we want to live by. So we want to live to our physical rather than our spiritual. It's two different entities within your body, right? And that's the Jesus and the devil and Satan and God. Is this, it's all represented internally as well, because your soul, if you read all the scriptures, the actual ones, your soul was ripped from heaven unwillingly and forced into your body. in order to have to come and live in these skin suits and be a part of this world and have all these overwhelming animal drives and have to see how strong your soul is and if it can handle it or not, right? I think we're all pretty weak. I don't see a lot of us doing it right, but there's some that I've seen, I'm sure. Uh, anyhow, so this internal conflict is also external, and it's also spiritual, and it's worldly, and it's everywhere's. But if that's your goal in life, like is that soul was ripped from heaven and torn from a place of happiness and contentment and put into these trials in this life to see if it can pull through. I don't know why. Now you can heaven, hell, all that stuff. When you actually read scripture, hell is more reserved for Satan and the fallen angels. Something else entirely will come about for the chaff. Pretty sure that they can kind of vaguely. I remember reading something about them being held somewheres or trapped or penned up and being able to see this prosperous new world that's about to happen for 1,000 years. And I'm sure, like, how we think of angels and your grandparents watching you from heaven or what, like, they're not going to be able to see like that, but they'll be able to see, like, looking over the hill kind of thing and see a prosperous, happy people doing well and be locked out of that and locked out of form and all the pleasures and all the things that they've gotten on earth and lived for and thrived for and all that stuff. Anyhow, didn't really have a purpose for this video today. I just kind of figured, I heard something the other day that when you know something and you have information to pass on to people, and whether everyone thinks it's crazy or not, it's kind of your responsibility to present it and to try to reason with people in some way and tell them what it is that they can and can't see that you see and why it is that you see that. And if you can logically prove something, well, it's your responsibility to show that to the world. So that's why I'm going to try this again and see if I can. One more person. That's all. That's all it's going to take too. And if it's a influential person, I screwed that word up. Then all better, right? Somebody that could get this little message to a bigger audience. I know that I've been picked apart on my YouTube videos, and somebody, I can never remember the name of his stuff, but he takes my videos and rips them up and makes little jokes, and it's quite funny. He does a good job. Good editor. I need someone like that. Anyhow, but any publicity is good publicity. I think I got a viewer from that, from the one video I went on, and I kind of talked to some people in the comments and stuff. It's quite interesting. So, but YouTube's just pointless at this point. I worry about Rumble because after the election, say, if there's some kind of enforcement on the law that YouTube is uh, they're not shit. I can't remember all the words, but they're a free platform for people to use the community, the town hall, or drawing a blank. So they're not a publisher. There's the word. And so so because that, they're not responsible for what's up on their platform, and because of that, they can't take things down or punish people for saying things that they don't like, even if it's untrue, right? Like, for example, if I was to go on Rumble, and I'm sure that anybody on Rumble's staff would say, he's wrong. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And so therefore, let's take his video down because he could damage people or whatever. He could reach stupid people and teach them incorrect information, misinformation. And but they don't. They say, well, it's free speech. So it's free speech. If you're dumb enough to listen to it, then you're dumb enough to listen to it. And if you're, smart enough, then you're smart enough, whatever the case may be. But they're not going to demonetize or stop me from getting views or try to hurt me in some way. They just let the public decide. And you leave dislikes and likes, and you have comments, and you can tell from that maybe if this guy can hold water, or if his arguments can hold water or not. So that's. But I do worry about Rumble because after, if YouTube gets that law, and they have to enforce that, or that's enforced upon them somehow, then they have so much more content. They've got all the music. They've got exercise stuff. They've got all the how-to videos. They've got all this other stuff that Rumble just doesn't have yet. And so it's going to be even harder to compete once free speech isn't under threat. As a shareholder, that concerns me about Rumble. As somebody who does videos, I think it'd probably be a great thing because maybe more videos would get out on YouTube and actually get seen and be able to be found. I can't find my own page half the time. Somebody's like saying, "Oh, show me your page," or whatever, and I'm like, oh, "Okay, here, it's this," and we look, and no, that's not, and no, that's not, and that's not, and that's not, and it takes forever, and you got to put in all these other extra names, and it's insanity. So hopefully YouTube and their douchebag ways keep it up after the election. Let them burn themselves. It's a good thing, as Martha Stewart would say. If they can destroy themselves, in the meantime, those all those how-to guys and all those music guys, and, come on over to Rumble. Start putting your stuff up in duplicate when you come up with anything. And then promote your Rumble on your YouTube so that we can all get switched over. Hopefully. Because personally, I think that, you made your bed. Now you got to lie in it. We're not going to come in and force you to save yourself. We got to just let them hang themselves. That's my thought on it anyway. That could be because I'm a shareholder of Rumble, so I got some bias. Excuse me. Yeah. Anyways, boys and girls, the all this stuff that I say, I proved. It's on my Facebook. You'd never find it though. It's way back in timeline. But I had a conversation with AI one day, and I precisely asked it about all of my crazy theories and the science behind them. And obviously, if I said how old's the Grand Canyon, to come up with the mainstream answer. But the way I presented it was, well, because this and this, there's no delta, there's rivers coming into it greater than 90-degree angles. We found the shorelines to the two lakes that it created, and the Colorado River isn't at a high enough altitude to cut the Grand Canyon. So because of all of that, doesn't that prove that the Grand Canyon is young and was cut quickly? And it says, yes, that is all true. But the mainstream consensus doesn't agree with that. Doesn't acknowledge this science or whatever. And did that for everything. Everything. So I know everything that I say is true. It's all sound, even the flat earth stuff. And the main argument there is, in order to build bridges or do flight or build a house or build anything on Earth and anything that we've ever done, don't we assume a flat stationary plane with a level horizon? Yes. Doesn't that prove that the Earth is flat? Yes. But the mainstream science doesn't blah, 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 blah. So then I asked her about what I was talking about at the start of my video and said, well, so the people in mainstream science that disagree with this are ostracized, lose their careers, and are made an example of. And she said, yes. And I said, so the mainstream science is under duress, and the proper consensus should be of those who are retired and have changed their opinion, and of those who go against the mainstream narrative, because they're being honest instead of being under duress. And we've proven that the ones that are under duress are lying with all this other stuff. So wouldn't it stand to reason that they're lying about all this other stuff as well, and that the mainstream proper narrative should be based on the outliers and on the retired mainstream scientists who immediately alter their position and come out with epiphanies. And she said, yes, that is true. We should be doing that. And I think the way you think is blah, 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 blah. A bunch of bullshit comments. But, compliments. So, we need to further this waking up at a rapid pace, because the other thing that none of you are seeing in the mainstream is if everything I say is true, then what's up with SpaceX? Elon Musk is a trusted millionaire, fucking this and that. But why is he lying to us about space? Why'd he dress up as Satan's general for Halloween? He was in full garb there, big uniform. And also, he's the only one. NASA, when they used to do the rockets, they'd shoot them up and they'd go like this. Like, and that's like the little Disney thing where they go like that. And you can go look at all the launches, they all arc. And the rocket goes out to sea and lands on the Bermuda Triangle or whatever. Elon's rockets have been going straight up and then fucking exploding. And it looks like upon impact. And then he says, well, we meant to explode. That was a test, or that was this, or that was that. We knew that was going to happen. So it's a whole new generation of evil going on there. I don't understand that guy. I can't put my finger on him, but know that he isn't what he seems. He's not what he appears to be. No idea what his goal is or where he's going with all this. But it's not of God. Let's say that. Not God with a capital G, anyway. I'm sure he believes in a God. So, don't trust anything that you're seeing and that you're hearing. Don't even trust me. Try to go out and find this stuff. It's going to be extremely hard nowadays to find anything like this, or to find anything that remotely supports this stuff. Now, there's a ton of flat earth stuff, but they don't get into a lot of the other science, right? They just jump right into this flat earth stuff. So it's a lot for your brain to process without seeing that it's a whole card house. Like, it's a whole big, and then, you got to hit that bottom card. Take out the bottom row. You can't start at the top, knock the very top off. You got to start down here and wake people up. The top's going to come down. Even if it holds its structure for a second, it's going to fall over once it hits the table. Anyhow, boys and girls, I think I'm going to talk to you about one more subject. I got the time. Let's see. No, I don't. I'm probably going to run out of time. So have a great day. I might have already ran out of time, so I'm going to just keep going. The other thing is Israel. My fucking eye twitched when I said it. Israel is a really complicated subject. And you guys don't have a fucking clue. You're so small. You're looking at such a small fraction. Even if you go back to 1945, you're looking at a small chunk of that history. You got to go back before Jesus to learn about that shit. and to know who those people are and who really belongs there. And it's none of them. None. But it's not going to happen right away. We've got years left before the real Hebrews wake up. But try to run through this. Egypt means bondage originally. Now we've changed it to being that place. But originally, the word meant bondage or slavery. So when it was written in the Bible, what God was saying is that Egypt will go to second Egypt, second bondage, and this is in Deuteronomy, and it will be